Information from Nordwind. This is from Nordwind.
And from our position was that we were surrounded, and they gave us a compass heading and told us to head out on that compass course by 2s and 3s. They said there's a half-mile gap about back a few miles. If you can get through that. So that's what we did. We left immediately and with our mortars and machine guns and took off and headed back. And there was more than 2 or 3 of us, because I remember the company commander happened to be in our group. There wasn't many of us. The rest of the company had probably moving out as fast as they could. And we managed to get out of that half-mile gap by going through a deep ravine. It was heavily wooded. And we stayed in that deep ravine that happened to be going in that direction part of the ways. And then we got to a clearing back there, and we came back to one of our artillery positions. Mm-hmm. The artillery had already left. Their artillery piece was standing in an open field with ammunition stacked next to it. And we didn't have, we just passed by that and kept going back. And our artillery usually was maybe 5 miles behind us. And we went back as far as the artillery, and they had left already. Mm-hmm. So all the tanks had left, the artillery had left, because the infantry was always the last to leave. And the artillery guys must have jumped in the truck and left, because they didn't bother doing anything. The gun was just sitting there with ammunition stacked next to it. So then we met up with the rest of our company back there, and we formed up again. And Germans closed the gap back somewhere in there. We got out of it. They thought I'd penciled us off, but we got out of there. And then we regrouped back a ways. So I should say it would be at least 5 miles, because we backed off 5, 6 miles, or maybe more, because we passed the artillery back there. And that's the first time I'd seen an artillery piece off.
So
then in about... we regrouped, and in about probably a couple of days, our unit counterattacked and drove the Germans back out of there again. Mm-hmm. And we drove them back far enough so we got back to our original positions where we had left in a hurry. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of the fellows there, he knew about artillery. And he lowered the barrel of that artillery piece, and he fired it point blank into the German positions there, 105.
Jeez.
And so we were able to drive him back again up to, and that was an SS division. Mm-hmm. The 17th SS Panzer Grenadier, which was armored infantry. They had tanks and infantry, and they told us later we were outnumbered 6-1.
Truth.
From the 3 German divisions that had encircled at us. And that's what we learned later on. That was we didn't know at the time what their plan was. But we found out later on that was the German plan, was to encircle the 100th Infantry Division and annihilate them. And they were well equipped with tanks and infantry and artillery. But like I said, the 399th held them from coming any further back after we regrouped. The 399th was able to hold them. They dug in and held them so they couldn't get any further.
Jeez.
They stopped them there after we had pulled back a ways. And it took 3 days. 3 days before they pushed them out of that area and we got back to Rome. They said there was 3 days of ferocious fighting before they drove them back again, back to our original positions.
So just remind me again, how many were in that? How many in the 399th? How many men would that be in the?
How many men
in the 399th?
Well, the regiment had probably a total of around 3,000.
Oh, so.
But they planned on encircling the whole division, not just.
But so 3,000 guys were holding off up to.
And part of the 398 was helping out.
Yeah.
And
so
the 399 held them there. They couldn't get any further.
So you're talking 6-1. So you're talking.
That's what they told us afterwards. We didn't know that.
Yeah. Jeez.
But if 3 divisions pounced on 1 division, it probably were.
Yeah.
Their idea was to break through our defense or our positions, and how far they planned on going back. It was just right after the Bulge, and I think they had, when they planned the Bulge, they planned this at the same time. They were going to break through it up in the Bulge wasn't too far from us, and then they were going to break through our positions and get far enough back, and they were going to finish off the whole business. I think that was their plan.
Yeah.
Well, in the Bulge, they broke